Hi, this is Gary Clark with the Wichita Genealogical Society. Welcome to our first virtual presentation. Today, we're going to see getting the most from Find a Grave. Find a Grave offers a lot of tools and features to help the genealogists in their research. Here's today's outline. It's a three-part series. It's going to have the first part is an overview, searching for graves, and searching for cemeteries. The second part is documenting your finds. This allows you to save, share, and publish your information. The third part will cover how to add and change memorials or graves to the system, how to obtain management rights, and it will cover the smartphone app and some FAQs. Let's look at a quick overview of Find a Grave. It was developed in 1995 by an individual as an entertainment portable. It became an accidental success. He just enjoyed looking up where famous people and celebrities were buried and some information about their gravesite. He entered in JFK, Marilyn Monroe, and other famous people. As you see, JFK was the 574th person entered. Now, Harold Coleman was 193rd millionth person entered. Now, Harold is not famous. He's a friend of mine. But the point is, by now, nearly 200 million people have records inside Find a Grave. Genealogists discovered its value shortly thereafter, and so did Ancestry.com. They bought it in 2013. Luckily for us, it is 100% free. The system is crowdsourced now. You and I enter in records, not one individual. There are several unintended consequences to this, as many people have become hobbyists at entering records and have entered in tens of thousands of records. There are some errors and ownership questions with some of the records, and we will cover those in this presentation. So let's talk about searching for someone. A memorial is a synonym for a person, although the name of the software is called Find a Grave, which really Find a Memorial. They use memorial for the name of a person. A search is not as forgiving as a Google and Ancestry search. You know, you can kind of enter in a name close to what you mean, and it will magically find it. Find a Grave has not implemented that technology yet, which is called fuzzy searches or fuzzy logic. It's an artificial intelligence tool. Spelling needs to be exact sometimes. We'll see how that works out. However, there are some helpful ancestry techniques they have implemented. You can use wildcards on a name search and partial names. There's also drop-down boxes for locations. It is important that you use these. So let's look at a couple examples in Find a Grave. Here's the home page for Find a Grave. Pretty simple interface and easy to navigate. We're just going to enter in a few things: a first name, a last name, and a cemetery location to find our first inquiry. So what I'm going to do is enter in, of course, a name that I know, but it's going to illustrate what we want. I'm not going to enter in a middle name, so I enter in the first name of Maddie, last name Christine. This is actually my great-grandmother. And I'll put a location in. Suppose I know where she's at, but a cousin may not know exactly. Let's just put in Kansas, because I know that she's here. And notice the drop down I mentioned a while ago. Just choose one of these options here. There's a lot of different Kansas entries. Let's just say Kansas, United States. And let's just say search. Okay. So it came up with one in Labette County, and I'm pretty sure that's not her. There's no Hornier in our family. So I'm going to go back and do a refined search. Now, I mentioned earlier that they're letting us use wildcards, a wildcard being like an asterisk. Being a good German immigrant that she was, there's a lot of different spellings of Christine. Like I had an I-N-E, E-I-N, I-E-N. So I'm just going to put a Chris and an asterisk here, leave everything else the same, and say search on that. There she is. That's the first one. So I click on that, and I can see all the information that's out there about Maddie Anna Girk, which is her maiden name, Christine. So that's one trick to do is use wildcards. Another trick is they have this refined search. If I didn't If I go back to where I found this, see, I've got just Christine here, and it didn't get the one I want. So I'm going to do refine search. I'm also going to do more search options. See this right here? More search options. It brings up quite a few more options you can use. I won't go through all of them. Some of them are useless, but memorial types, like I say, if you were looking for famous people and certain things, memorials with, photos not, that's for advanced stuff. Mainly, it's this include. So if I do click on partial last name search, and I still just make it Chris and do a search, and there she is again. So what you get is by using, show you that again, by using the partial last name search, all that is essentially doing is putting an asterisk in there for you. I could have just used the word C and do last name search, but it would have brought up every Matty C in this case in the state of Kansas. So that's so use wildcards or use the last name search. That's really good. I'm gonna just go back on this. I'm gonna go back to the home page. See, it left open the more advanced searches. I can say here down here, fewer search options. I can do that and close that back up. So that's a great couple tips to finding your name. You can put in some years at which she died. Frankly, I don't remember exactly when. 59, I think. But you can say this. You can say exact, before, after, or you can do a range. This may be particularly useful if you had a common name you're looking up, and like Smith or Brown or whatever, and it gave you way too many results. So I typically don't use this at all unless, like say, I'm having trouble getting the name I need. One other thing I want to show you. We've updated search. Let's just click on that. Here are some things that Ancestry has added over the time to find a grave. Used to be a lot stricter. You used to have a last name. You almost always would now, unless someone really had a unique first name. You can include whether the spouse's name or anything in that advanced area. You can do the date ranges. Down here it says you can put for the wild cards, you can use a question mark or an asterisk. This asterisk means just to take up to this letter and then anything else. The question mark just replaces one letter. For example, the example they used here was Sorensen. Sometimes it could be with an EN or an ON, maybe an AN, I'm not sure. I mean, many of those names, different things. You could just put a question mark in there and it will grab all names. That's a single letter replacement. I would do a review of all this just to give you some more tools. So let's go look at a cemetery lookup. There may be several reasons you want to do cemetery searches. Possibly you're not having luck with a memorial search, or you're not familiar with the area and you want to see what are all the cemeteries in a given area. This is particularly useful in rural areas with small cemeteries. Then you can browse each cemetery and look at all the names in it. Sometimes you'll find maybe the person who's looking for, their name was misspelled, or even what's fun is you may find some extended relatives in that cemetery also, which leads you now down another path of research. So let's explore some cemeteries. We're looking at the home screen again and find a grave. And what we want to do is just go to cemeteries. Right up here is another one of the links at the top of the page. So I'm going to click on that, and this is the cemetery lookup page. There's a couple ways you can look up cemeteries. If you know the cemetery name, you can enter that. If you don't know the cemetery name and want to enter just the area, that's fine also. So I'm going to show you some advantages and disadvantages of doing both of them. Suppose you looking up Maple Grove Cemetery. We have that right here in Wichita. So I'm going to type in, if I can type, Maple Grove. And I'm going to actually say Kansas. And you can see it does a drop down box for Kansas. So I'm going to say search. Wow, there are 16 Maple Grove cemeteries in Kansas. You'll find a lot of this type of thing. So suppose I want to narrow this down. You can scroll through here and look for Wichita, or I can say a new search. Now this is kind of a pain because you can't refine a cemetery search. You have to type it in again. So if I go this way, Sedgwick County, Kansas, and search. I bet you didn't know there were 2 Maple Groves in Sedgwick County. This one is up in Valley Center. That's a real small one at 85th Street and I-35. What I was really looking for was the Maple Grove Cemetery. The big one on Hillside. So I'm going to click on that. So that gives you the home page of that. And boy, look at there. It's 25,000 memorials that have been captured and put in Find a Grave at the Maple Grove Cemetery. You would want to, no doubt, do some searches on some individuals in, and which you could do here. And I don't know of any. I'm just going to show you a test here. Let's just say Clark. See how many Clarks are in Maple Grove. Bound to be a few. There's 126 in Maple Grove. So you can narrow it down by entering in here. You can do a refined search there. I doubt if I'm in there. Let's hope not. I'm not. Yay! To refine search. Do something like James, maybe. Let's try a wild card. Search. There's 19 J. Clarks in the center. So that's one thing you can do, is doing a cemetery search first if you didn't know where it was. Or you can just do a cemetery search without a name. I have a cemetery that some relatives are up in Burton, Kansas. So I'm going to type in Burton. It's in Harvey County. And see what I get here. This is my least favorite interface in Find a Grave. When you look up an area, it shows you all these cemeteries. You really can't tell right off the bat where they all are, but the place that you entered will generally be right in the middle. So if we look at Burton, if I click on this icon, and that is indeed the one I wanted. Another way you could narrow that down. If you use I'm using the enlargement button here. You do that, and it does say Burton, the town of Burton. I can also use my scroll button on my mouse to go up and down. So there's the Burton Cemetery. So I just click on this, and I go to the home page for the Burton Cemetery. Now they have quite a few, not nearly as big as Maple Grove, but there's 2,700 graves in the Burton Cemetery. So I don't want to scroll all through them. I do know who I'm looking for. So his name's Frank Brown. So I'm just going to type in Brown and see what I get. There's 16 matches there. Now I can probably figure out which one it is, but I'm going to just do this then. Let me clear this. I'm going to do refine search, and I knew his name was Frank, so I'm going to type in Frank Brown. Still, I get 3 Frank Browns. Now, he was a Civil War veteran, so I could just kind of figure that out, that, well, that could be him. This can't be him. He was born after the Civil War, as was this gentleman. So this is a distant uncle in the Burton Cemetery. But you can see how if you start at the cemetery first, and then you can drill down. One of the advantages of that, and this example didn't show, is multiple family members in a graveyard that you didn't know that, and you could scroll through there and maybe find some people that you didn't realize were there. Most of you probably knew a lot of what we just covered, looking for individuals and looking for cemeteries. But the next section, I think, will open up your eyes to some really great tools. So this will be all new. But before we do that, it may be a little dry up until now for you. I want you to turn up the volume on your speaker and maybe even stand up. We're going to take a short 50-second detour just to kind of get the creaks out of the body right now. Big difference just for a minute or so of scrubbing, huh?